So hello everyone, good morning or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. It's great to see all of you guys here. We've got so many people joining us from different places. We've got people coming from Canada, the US, Europe, Asia, and even East Asia. So very welcome to all of you, and we hope you enjoy today's webinar. So my name is Esther, and I will be today's moderator. I work in the International Relations Department at CSO Education. And my colleague Shane can also introduce himself to you guys. He works with.
Hi, my name is Shane. I am the Director of International Relations Department with CSO Education Group. Nice to see everyone here.
So our company specializes in offering innovative short-term programs. So typically they're 1 to 2 months long. We offer both online and study abroad opportunities. Our programs are made available through various partnerships with reputable universities worldwide. So we've got partnerships with universities like UCAM in Spain, Xiaoping University in Taiwan, the University of California, Irvine in the US, and of course we also offer programs led by professors from Canadian universities. All of our courses are university level, and they are taught by highly qualified professors like our speaker today. If any of you are interested in participating in our entrepreneurship program, any of our online university programs, or just hearing more about our scholarships and financial aid, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email info@canadasummer.ca or contact us through Facebook, our Facebook page at any time. So a lot of you have asked so far about the e-certificate, so I just want to kind of repeat that again for those of you who just joined. So the e-certificates will be sent out by email to you after the webinar and probably in the coming week. I just want to say, I'll introduce now our guest speaker, Mrs. Noha Attar. At present, Mrs. Attar is a program consultant for the doctoral program at the Toulouse Business School in France. She holds an MBA degree from Heriot-Watt University and is currently working towards her doctorate of business administration degree in organizational psychology from the Toulouse Business School. Among other notable achievements, she is the founder of Corporate Teatro, a personality and social psychology lecturer through CSO at Hebei University of Technology, as well as an organizational psychology consultant dedicated to training and motivating clients and increasing productivity through consulting. So I'll turn things over now to her to begin her presentation on humanistic psychology. So welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for the lovely introduction. Like it looked like, wow, is this me? I didn't imagine that it would be that lovely. Thank you very much, Esther. So honestly, I really believe in the coincidences and how things can flow. And a couple of weeks before the webinar, of course, I was preparing for the webinar. And at the same time, because I'm a working mother and I study and I do all things together, so I was actually organizing my home. It doesn't look so organized now, but at that time it was good. So I was trying to organize my home, and suddenly I heard my daughter. She was watching TV, probably Disney Junior, and there was really a powerful song. It was something like, say my name, say my name. It was so powerful. And I was like, or what's my name? I can't remember exactly. And I asked her, wow, that's very strong music. What is this? And she told me, well, that's Descendants 2, mommy. And she was very enthusiastic. And I was like, Descendants what? And she was like, because I don't watch, I always study, I don't watch TV. So I was like, and what's her name? The singer is very special. And she's like, wow, you don't know her, mommy? She's Uma, the daughter of Ursula, and he's Jay, the son of Jafar, and she's Mal, the daughter of Maleficent. And I thought, whoa, aren't these all the evil guys in Disney? And she said, yes, oh yes, and they are their sons and daughters, and they decided they want to leave the evil world and be good and be nice. And I was like, that's interesting. And because I was thinking about the webinar and honestly, she was an inspiration. And the idea of leaving evil and being good, I totally remembered Carl Rogers. Maybe a lot of people who are already taking psychology, social psychology, and personality psychology, maybe they know who is Carl Rogers. People who studied psychology, he was the father and founder, one of the founders of the humanistic psychology movement. And together with Rollo May, together they were in the humanistic, very associated with the humanistic school. And I remembered a letter that they used to exchange. They used to criticize each other through letters at that time. It was, I think, in the Journal of Humanistic Psychology in 1982. And I totally thought, okay, so why can't I read this letter? I want to, yes, thank you, Esther, for bringing the letter up. And I thought, okay, I want to read this letter. It's really interesting to have to read the scientist letter like Rollo May, and what did he say to Carl Rogers? So if you allow me, I'd like to read a couple of quotes from Rollo May's letter. So some of them, maybe later we can send you both letters so you can read it and enjoy this beautiful scientific exchange. So, dear Carl, your letter published in the special issue of Perspectives, Rogers, 1981, discussed my contribution to humanistic psychology. And I very much appreciate what you wrote. You do me honor in many ways. So, Rollo started to criticize Carl Rogers. And here I will read you some of the letters, some little parts because of our time. So you wrote, Rollo sees the demonic as a basic element in the human makeup, as with your own view, that it is cultural influences which are the main members of the human species as essentially constructive in their fundamental nature, but damaged by their experience. It takes culture to create self and self to create culture. They are the yin and the yang of being human. I propose that the evil in our culture is also the reflection of evil in ourselves, and vice versa. You paint a seductive and enticing picture, and anyone would like to believe it, which is devilishly. A danger of which I am very aware is that people, hypnotically seduced by rosy predictions of the future, will conclude that it requires no effort and do nothing. And I am arguing that we must include a view of the evil, it's a very long letter, in our world and in ourselves, no matter how much that evil offends our narcissism. In my experience, it is this polarity, this dialectical interaction, this oscillation between positive and negative that gives the dynamic and the depth to human life. Life to me is not a requirement to live out a preordered pattern of goodness, but a challenge coming down through the centuries out of the fact that each of us can throw the lever towards good or towards evil. And then May concluded, of course, there's lots of details. I'm just trying to highlight a little part of the letter. I write this letter, dear Carl, with profound respect for you and your contribution in the past to all of us. If I speak strongly, it is because I believe strongly. Yours, Rollo May. And actually, after I was so moved by the letter and by the song, it was very powerful. And I thought, what do I believe strongly in? Do I believe like Carl Rogers in very innocent, that people are naturally innocent, naturally good, naturally kind? Or should I consider what Rollo May tried to convey, criticizing the humanistic approach, and think about and avoid this narcissism of being nice all the time. I was really curious, and especially with the descendants too. You know, the Disney world is now having the evil descendants, the sons, the daughters choosing good over evil. And with the letters, I felt really moved, and I wanted to share this with you and with the audience. And I know now Esther will probably think that I'm crazy because I know we have a lot of audience, but I'm really curious. I want to know, what do the audience think? I think it's a good part to interact a little bit, even if it's a huge webinar. And I'm really curious, and I'd like to know, who do you agree with? Do you agree with Rollo May with his good and evil realistic look into humanistic psychology? Or would you choose Carl Rogers' school of humanistic psychology, that people are naturally good if the environment around them and the climate and the culture is good? So Esther, if we can have some like messages, some interaction.
Yeah, so if you have an answer for Noha, please write it in the chat. We'd love to hear what you think. So we have one person here who answered, she's written, people are naturally kind, but given the situations that manifest every day, unlikely things happen. This is just my take. We also have, someone else wrote here, the good and evil always go hand in hand. And we also have another response here. I believe that people are naturally good and circumstances will determine how they will turn out. Someone else wrote here, I believe in Carl Rogers' view that every person is naturally good. So a lot of people here are agreeing with Carl Rogers. Someone here wrote, people were born with kindness. And another person again wrote, I believe that they're nurtured by the environment that they're in. I've got a lot of great answers. I'm trying to read a few of them. Probably won't be able to read all of them, but it's great to hear from you guys. Yeah, someone here wrote, people are naturally good. It's their situation that makes them this way. So we've got a lot of people agreeing with Carl Roger, and we've got a lot of people saying that, you know, you're intrinsically good, born natural that way, being kind, that your circumstances and your environment will influence how you behave or how you act. And we've got someone here who wrote, I think these circumstances give us choices. We all do have a choice still, don't we? So this is another answer. And we have another response here. These are the issues of developmental psychology. Therefore, we can stand on either issues on the basis of some arguments. And someone here also agreed on the yin and yang aspect. One will not exist without the other. Goodness, kindness won't be noticed without evil. So that's a really great point. And yeah, lots of people are kind of saying similar things. We've got someone here saying, yes, man is naturally good because God is good. And so we've got some answers like this. And yeah, I think those are the general themes that we're getting in.
Okay, yeah. So I guess now, if someone has a question, if there's something they want to share with us, we can open a discussion. We can talk about it.
We've got a few questions already. So we've got someone here who's asked, what is the educational implications of humanistic psychology?
What are the education implications of humanistic psychology? I don't get the question. What do you mean? Would you please explain? Or Esther, if you understand, please explain to me. Yeah.
I will give a chance. So I'm not sure who asked the question. It was submitted anonymously, but I'll give a chance for them to kind of restate the question if they'd like. We've got another question here. If you could explain a little bit more on the principles that we need to follow in humanistic psychology. Some of the principles.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, I don't know everything. I'm not an expert in humanistic psychology, but usually, like when we study humanistic psychology, and mainly when we talk about Carl Rogers, for example, Carl Rogers believes in the good in people. He used to always have, even like, for example, there was a very angry woman in his one of his groups, and he didn't judge her. He didn't feel like, he gave her this unconditional respect and unconditional belief that she will become better, that she is not a violent person. And I think that was different than the other approaches in the psychology schools, where it was more client-centered. The approach was focusing on the client and trying to see the world from their point of view.
Okay, and we have another question here. Why is humanistic psychology important in our life, and how?
Yeah, that's a big question. I don't know if it's important in our life or not. It's a science. It's one of the schools of psychology, like the psychoanalytical school, like one of them was the humanistic, and so on. But maybe the question, if I understand it correctly, like for example in the workplace, or if you are still studying, one of the very famous scientists who was also associated to the humanistic school was Maslow, and of course it's well known, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, that we all have needs. So when the basic needs are fulfilled, we go up the hierarchy and up again until we reach self-esteem and self-actualization. So if we reach the self-actualization, we will be happy, we will maintain our well-being, and that's the good part. That's a very strong aspect of humanistic psychology, that even people, when they do bad or even evil, they do it for a good reason. They do it for self-actualizing. And actually Carl Rogers always believed in that, even in animals. And he mentioned that once he was really terrified by seeing some examples of animals, like it was a special strain of dogs, maybe living in Asia. And this species, she used to kill, the litter or the offsprings of another woman, maybe out of jealousy, I don't know. And he was very surprised. And that was the once he saw that she killed just for killing. But usually it was, when animals kill, usually is for self-actualization, or not for like the sake of killing or the sake of evilness.
Okay, great. So we've got quite a few questions. We've got another question here. How can we share to our students the value of humanistic psychology, especially to those who have behavioral problems?
Okay, I can see the question, so let me read it again. How can we share to our students the value of this, especially to those who have behavioral problems? Okay, so I don't know who's the person who has the question. So if you are a peer or a student, this is not your responsibility, of course, and that person should get support. I don't know it's too general, so I'll just answer as much as I understand. So if there is a case, for example, if I have a colleague, or if there's someone who's not okay, he should, of course, seek someone who's professional. And it's not your responsibility as a peer or a colleague to help, but you can suggest, you can advise, and so on, as a friend. But this needs professional help. And if you are, of course, a therapist, the person has to come to you. The person has to want to seek help. Because if a person is denying if everything is perfect, and he doesn't see that there's a problem, so he has to take responsibility and feel that I would like to do this, I would like to feel better, I would like to help people, or I would like to explore more about a certain or specific field. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question here. I'm sure you can see it on your screen too. It's asking, what is the role of emotional intelligence in humanistic psychology?
Okay, so emotional intelligence, we're asking big questions. Emotional intelligence is mainly about knowing and knowing your emotions, and being aware of them and how to manage them. And at the same time, being aware of other people's emotions and being able to manage them. So if we start from here and we link this to the belief in goodness, like what you have shared with us in your interactions. So I guess even if I feel angry, even if I feel jealous or envy, that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. So the humanistic approach would say, it's all right, just acknowledge that you have these feelings, and these feelings shouldn't be projected on other people. Okay, we should try to accept them and then transform them. And here is the managing part of emotional intelligence. How to manage them in a way that can be productive and creative rather than destructive.
Okay, great. Another
You're welcome. I can see some of the answers and people are thanking me. I hope it's because the time also is very little and there are huge questions, but I'll do my best.
Yeah. So we've got a few more minutes, so maybe we can ask a few more questions. We've got a question here. How do we relate this to unconditional positive regard?
Yeah, it is directly related because the humanistic approach believes in the goodness. This is what we said, and this is unconditional positive regard. That no one is evil, like just for the sake of evilness. Maybe it's the climate, the environment, or maybe it's the choices that person does. But it's case by case, and we don't know the reasons. Why did this happen? Maybe I remember. Once I had a conversation with a person who we consider as a criminal, and because he steals and he robs, and this is of course in the society is not considered legitimate. And this person, when I just let go of all the fears and all the stereotypes and the stigma, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me because I was afraid of it. But when I really listened, I heard the story, and he was like, this is what I do since I was born. And my father did that, my mother did that. And I know no other profession. I don't know anything else. So of course, we're not promoting evilness or being a criminal or stealing people or killing. But when I really looked at the world from his point of view, centered in his story, I felt that it's not easy to break the pattern. And this is why maybe the Descendants movie, it really touched me, because it takes courage to stop the evilness, to say, okay, I'm the descendant, my ancestors were all evil, or they thought in a certain way, and I have to break this pattern. So I think this might be in relation to humanistic psychology.
We have a more practical question here. Where do humanistic psychologists work, or what types of job opportunities do they have?
Okay, so I don't think there's, it's not a title. It's not like you don't find a humanistic psychologist on a business card. So I don't think that's a title that you gain. It's because you can be, for example, you can believe in the school. These are different schools of psychology, and some psychologists, so I'm not a psychologist, I'm a researcher. So I'm a researcher in organizational psychology, but sometimes I read for the humanistic psychology scientists. Some other times I feel like psychoanalysis is very important and I need to explore that. So I would say, me personally, but that doesn't mean that this is the rule, that it's good to open up to different schools of psychology. If you're interested to study psychology, it's better for us to know different approaches. And I think also people who took the courses recently with CSO, the critical thinkers, and critically think, critically analyze, like what Rollo May did with Carl Rogers, and like what other people did with Freud and the psychoanalytical theories, and just like think about it and absorb all the schools, and then maybe you will have your special school that is mix of everything. But I don't think, I'm not sure that there's a title called a humanistic psychologist. I think it's just, if you are a researcher, you will be more into the humanistic, you will research, but this can change. It's not something that you have to do all the time.
Mm-hmm. We have, do you have time for a few more questions? So
yes,
we've got quite a lot of questions. We probably cannot get to all of them. Someone here has asked, why are some people not able to control their mood swings?
Okay, again, it's the details are very important, and this is a too general question, because if we have a scale from 0 to 10, so for example, if if it's 10, it's an extreme. So if a person is 5 minutes angry and then 5 minutes laughing, and so this, and most probably, for example, he cannot hold it at work or in other settings like with family, or so that's too extreme, and I think this person might need help. But there's other normal mood swings, you know, like because sometimes it's stressful, like these times. So these times with, for example, people who are working from home and their children are all over the place and they couldn't concentrate. So it's normal under pressure that people behaviors change. But to what extent? So there's no black and white. So we need to know, there's no general answer to every situation. We need to know the details and the factors. Why is this person, if this person is under pressure because of the mood swings, or if he really needs help, or it happens once a year, so it doesn't count. We're just human beings, so it's part of the emotions, the normal emotions. But if it's something regular, like it happens a lot and it's very clear, and this person is the person who's asking the question, I think we might seek help or seek more awareness.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. Someone's asking here, what is the relationship that human psychology has with other art and humanities subjects? When studying it, does it share the same technique like science, like the sciences, or is it more like the arts?
No, sorry, Esther, I didn't get this question, and I can't find it on the.
It's in the Q&A, so I can repeat the question. It's just asking, someone's asking, what is the relationship between humanistic psychology? Like, how does it relate with other arts and humanities subjects? And when you are studying or researching it, does it share the same techniques or approaches that the sciences do, or are they more like the arts?
So I think the question, but correct me if I'm wrong, it's more about research. I think someone is like a researcher and is interested in researching.
Yeah, just I think more like the methodology. Like, is the methodology more similar to that in the sciences, as in the sciences, or the arts?
Okay, so I think it's according to, again, the research question, according to the field that you're studying. So if it's the social part, we can use both. Some people use the quantitative methodology, if you're asking about methods, more into questionnaires and statistics and analysis. People preferences prefer to have more of interviews, qualitative data, focus groups, narration, and then you also the data and go into the qualitative part. So it's according to the preference, and we can use both. It's not like if it's science, it's quantitative. If it's art, no, you can use it's according to the researcher's preference, and it's according to the research question.
Okay. And we've gotten quite a few of the same questions, so I'll ask this question and then we'll probably close it. So we've got a lot of people asking, why do we always try to achieve self-actualization? Like why is this something that we are doing? It's a big question.
It's a big question, yeah. Okay, so I think maybe to be happy, to feel important, maybe, yeah. And of course, there might be other answers, but these are the answers that are on top of my mind now.
All right, great. So we are going to conclude with the questions for now. Thank you so much for your time, Mrs. Attar. Thank you for presenting on this topic and for answering people's questions. We're going to conclude with the questions, but thank you guys for joining us today. And we will, again, like I've mentioned earlier, we will send you guys your certificates, your e-certificates by email in the coming week, okay? So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope to see you guys at our next webinars. Okay, thank you again. Thank you again, Noha.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, bye everybody. Bye.